Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Boleh kata.
Can you see the screen, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, now I try to move the PowerPoint, see whether it moves. Does it move?
Yes. Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Moves, huh? Okay, all right. Okay, today's topic is on project planning. Before we start the topic, I would like to discuss a bit on the midterm exam. So the midterm exam is scheduled for the week that you come back, which is the 14th, I think. It's during class. During class, it will be conducted through author, but you have to come to class. Okay, so for section 1, it's going to be during your regular hours, according to the schedule that we have agreed. And section 2, the same thing. I can't remember which one is which, but one section is when Monday from 2 to 5, I think. And then the other one is on Wednesday from 8 to 11 in the morning. Right. So the midterm is going to be conducted during class time. So you make sure you bring your, if you want to use your laptop, you can use your laptop. If you want to use your smartphone also, you can use your smartphone. It's a MCQ format, which has 100 questions, multiple choice, 100 questions. 100 questions, and you'll be given 2 hours to finish. Okay, topic will be topic from 1 until today, topic 4. So there will be 4. Do you still see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, now any question about the midterm?
So far, okay.
Okay, so midterm again, it's going to be on the week that you come back, which is in May. Which is in May, the week that you come back is on the 14th, right? So if your class is on the 15th, then it's going to be on the 15th, and the other one class on the 17th, so 17th. So 15 and 17 during class time, topic 1 to 4. All right. Now let's go for today's lecture. Today's lecture is the first part of project management, which is project planning process. There are a few terms that you have to know. These are all just theoretical based. These terms you have no choice but to memorize, or you have to understand the concept behind what are the steps involved in project planning process. Okay, it is similar if you look at it closely, and if you analyze it closely, it looks similar like the planning that you do in your principle of management. But then it is a bit more detailed on what are the things that should be pre-planned ahead in order to achieve the desired outcome of the project. So whenever we have a discussion or whatnot, we just imagine that we are going to do, not yet doing, but we are going to do or going to take up a particular project. So what is the project planning? It is a critical process in project management that involves defining project goals, the objective, what are the deliverables, timelines, as well as identifying and locating resources, and also creating a plan to achieve the project success. So those are the basic general requirements of project planning. So if you're doing project planning, those are the things that should be included and should be discussed upon, and things that needs to be rectified upon those areas must be rectified. Okay, so it serves as the guideline. So when you want to start the process, or when you want to start a project, the project planning is the guideline. Of course, there are areas in project planning that would be a proper guideline. So here are the steps, the steps on how to do a proper project planning. So this is what I can think of, and I have looked at many articles, many research, many books and whatnot. So I have come across these are the common areas or common steps taken. Of course, if you look at different books or different materials, they might suggest that there are some are lesser, some are more in terms of the steps. So these are the common ones that I have plucked from many articles, and here they are. The first one, you have to define the project goals and objectives. So this is basic lah. So every other project, you have to be able to know what are the goals and objectives. So what does it involve? It involves identifying the purpose of the project, why you're doing the project, and what are the desired outcomes, and the metrics that used to measure success. In the end, how do you measure the success of the project? Okay, remember previous class we talked about the different methods of defining how a project is successful or not. So you have to predetermine that first. Second, you have to develop the project scope. What is included and what are the boundaries of the project. What should be included and what should not be included. Number three, you identify what are the deliverables. What is it that you want to deliver? What is the end product? What does the project comes in terms of at the end of the project, in terms of material, tangible or intangible things. So not only tangible things, if you're building a building or you're constructing a building, then it's just not the building, but what are the intangible, like quality of the building, the aesthetic of the building. So those are the intangible types of deliverables. So we must be clear on what is it that we want to deliver to our clients. So when we talk about deliverables, we're talking about what the clients can take from the project. It's not only what we offer, but we look at it from the customer's point of view, from the client's point of view. Okay, so this requires a lot of communication between the project owner and also the client. Then only after you understand the deliverables and agree upon between you and the client, then only you go to the next step, which is you have to create a project schedule. Which to do first, and you have to lay out everything from step one until the end of the project. If you're building a house or you're constructing a house, from the foundation, from the resource, from buying the supplies, all this must be laid out in individual tasks. And it has got to have a proper schedule. When do you buy? When do you start this? When you start activity 1? When you start activity 2? Can you start activity 3 simultaneously with activity 1? All these are defined in the project schedule. So the schedule must represent the start and also the end of the project, and also all the milestone, the key dates or the milestone. Next one is to identify project resources. This is where you determine who are the people that you need, how many you need to hire, how many you can take from the company, or how many can you take from other projects. So you must know exactly. So by having a proper project schedule, then you can have a rough idea on how many people that you need. You look at the deliverables as well, so you know, you can estimate. Of course, this thing is not stagnant. Along the way, maybe you need more, maybe you need less and whatnot. But when you do your planning, you have to take into consideration plus minus around 5 to 10% of what you have estimated. Why? Because there's a lot of contingency. So in project, in identifying project resources, you have to be able to create some, we call it the, what do you call it? The preparation for contingencies. So in this step, you identify the personnel, what are the equipment, machine needed, and whatnot, materials, and also other resources. Then after that, you develop a project budget. The project budget outlines the financial resources needed to complete the project successfully. How much do you need in order to complete the project? In terms of money, this is the RM. So once you have your resources, you have your deliverables, you have all those things, you can sit down and look at everything that the customer, the client require, and then you can estimate. This is a very, very important stage in project planning, because if you don't plan properly, you will not be able to allocate money, allocate money, because you need money to do everything. You have to pay wages, you have to pay for resources, you have to pay for materials, you have to pay for machines, you have to pay. So all these things requires you to really sit down and see and budget properly. Yeah. And why it is important is because that you will have one big budget, which is the money that is given to you, agreed upon between you and the client. So let's say the client said the project is worth 10 million and you agreed upon 10 million. But you must understand that from that 10 million, 20% is your profit. So you have to work only with 8 million. So this 8 million must be distributed properly across the project activities. This is the process, the project budget. So the amount is after you minus your profit. Okay. Along the way, if let's say it goes beyond budget and whatnot, you can take some from your profit. And of course, there are times whereby you have gone over budget and whatnot. So that's why it's very important for you to be able to project properly what is the amount of money needed and amount of budget for each of the activities. This requires a lot of experience, skill, communication between all the people that are involved in this project. Especially when it is a big project, project that involves millions and millions of dollars. You have subcontractor that you have to pay. You have subcontractors, or you have smaller companies that are contracted to you to supply certain things and whatnot. So the money must go accordingly. I'll give you an example. If a big project like now there is an issue of a company called Sapura Energy. Sapura Energy is a company that is doing drilling and serving the oil rigs, oil platform all over the world. Used to be a very good company. Now there's a problem because they are unable to pay their vendors because the debt is very high. So it shows that whenever they take up, there are some projects that they suffer a lot of loss, and because of materials prices have gone up. So they face a lot of problems, and now they are unable to pay their vendors, and they are trying to get the court order to give them time to restructure back and to pay their vendors. So that is an example of a very loose or bad project management, where your company is solely based on projects, and then you have gone over budget, or you have quoted numbers that are not sufficient to cover the project itself. Okay, so that's why it's very important, the project budget. You don't want to end up losing, or you don't want to end up owing money to your subcontractors or your vendors. This has also happened to Proton in the past. So Proton has suffered the same thing, unable to pay up their vendors because the project of certain cars that they made, the new cars, did not bring back the revenue that they expected. Okay, then the next one is to develop a risk management plan. So it goes hand in hand with all the other things. Risk management, the better you are at risk management, the better you are at identifying what are the risks that comes with the project, the better it is that you will be able to stick with your budget. The more you are unable to predict the risk or to acknowledge that certain risks exist, the riskier in terms of the budget will will go overboard. So risk management is like, no, when you're constructing high skyscrapers and whatnot. So there are days that you cannot construct. Why? Because of the weather and whatnot. So you have to be able to take into consideration all these external factors that you cannot control and put them as risk. Later we will have a proper topic on risk management, and then we will be able to calculate risk and whatnot. So risk goes hand in hand with the project budget. Then you go further down, you define the project roles and responsibility, who are to do what and when they are to do things. Roles and responsibilities of the project team members and also other stakeholders. Okay, who to do what and when to do things. So that's how you so you scrutinize. Normally you will divide your project into team A, team B, team C, team D, team E. Team A is for this, team D for that, team C is for this, and for each of the team there are leaders and whatnot, and there are people that are accountable and whatnot. Later we'll see the example, and you will find it not that hard to understand. So it's just a matter of giving tasks or laying out tasks and then giving out to people or to teams. They are going to work hand in hand in order to take up the project. Number 9 is to establish communication protocols. Establishing communication protocols ensures that everyone involved in the project is informed of project updates and progress. Why is important communication is because every other activities depend on the previous activity. So every other vendor that comes into the project and whatnot, they depend on the quality of the previous work. So the communication must be always there and must be tip-top, must be appropriate, must be accordingly done, so that things can run smoother. So communication in project management is very important. All right. So having said that, these are the basic, the 9 basic project planning. So if you have a question on project planning, this is how you're going to discuss the project planning. There are 9 steps, and why do you do certain steps. Okay, the first thing that in project planning, there is something called the statement of work, and then there's something called project charter. So these are similar but different a bit only. Some companies will not, most of the company will use the statement of work, and some will use project charter. So, but it is similar in a way, only difference a bit. Later we'll discuss about the difference. So let's talk about the first one, which is the statement of work. Gerak tak PowerPoint? PowerPoint? More, Okay. Now we are at the 6th slide. Okay, what is the statement of work? Remember earlier I said about every task has got to be individualized, individualized, broken down. So the project is a big thing. It's a combination of many tasks. So the statement of work is something that scrutinize this. So what is it? It is a critical document in project management that outlines the project objective, deliverables, tasks to be completed. It also includes timeline, cost, and other essential details to ensure that everyone involved in the project are aware of what is expected. If you look at it, this actually includes all the things that is inside the project planning process. So this is actually a method of project planning using the statement of work. So what are some essential, and then we will look back at the project planning process, whether, of course, it is aligned. The first one is the introduction part. This section provides a brief overview of the project, includes the project purpose and objective. So if you look at project planning, it covers the define the project, goals and objective. Then you have the project scope. Section outline project boundaries, include what is what and what is not included in the project. Look at the project planning process. Where is it? It's number 2, develop the project scope. Then you have deliverables, also same. Acceptance criteria. Within the deliverables, criteria the project team must meet to achieve the client acceptance and each deliverable. So these two is under one step. Schedule, it's there in the planning as well. What are the resource requirement? It is also in the planning process. And assumption and constraint, which consists of the risk management. And reporting and communication also is there in the. So these are the section that people develop the statement of work in order to facilitate the project planning process. Some are there, some are not, but everything can be put inside the statement of work, right? So that is one method of looking at project planning. You use the statement of work. Okay, that's why some books have got 9 steps, some articles have got 7, some articles got 8, but I put up 9. And the statement of work covers all 9. Okay, the next method is called a project charter. A project charter is something similar. It's also a document that formally authorizes the intention, initiation, start of a project, and outlines the project objective, scope, same, stakeholders, requirement. The only difference is it serves as a contract between the project team, sponsor, and stakeholders. So project charter is something that you present or you show to the client, and when the client agrees, it becomes something that people will go back to. When it comes to, let's say, there is a disagreement, there is something miscommunication and whatnot, they will go back to the project charter, look at the project charter, and see what the project charter said about certain thing. Let's say deliverables, you said 13 story high. Then in the project charter, when you complete the building, it's 13 story high, but in the project charter, there should be 14 stories. So when you want to deliver the client dispute, we will go back to project charter and look at it. So the project charter also, like statement of work, it scrutinizes every part of the planning process. Okay, same. So I don't have to go through much about all these things. This is all similar. Okay, but you have to remember lah. You have to memorize lah. What are the things included in project charter and what are the things that are included in statement of work. Okay, so they are all, if you look at it, it's really similar, but there is this one part, approval signature. Okay, so everybody that has got some stake in the either the client, yourself, contractors, and whatnot, they all have to sign off. Means that they agree on the thing, because this is going to be a major document that they will become a referral document later when there is dispute or there is mostly dispute lah. You go back to project charter lah. So what is the difference between SOW? Similar lah, 90% I would say, similar. In fact, some of the companies, they also use SOW as a contractual agreement. Okay, means that they also use that as a document to refer back to. But most of the time, project charter is typically used as a contract lah between project team sponsor. But I cannot say that SOW is not a contract. If SOW it can be extended, but the moment when you SOW you extend to the contract type, then it becomes a project charter. Okay. So what's the difference? There's not much different. Only when you extend the SOW, you include the contract agreement, you require people to sign, then it becomes a project charter lah. So which is better? Depends on the company lah. Depends on the company what is their work culture, their experiences before this, and what are the client requirement. If some client requirement requires a project charter, then you have to come out with project charter lah. If the client is familiar with statement of work, then you have to come out with statement of work. Can you? Question is whether you can separate the both. Yes, you can separate as well. The SOW is your referral, and the project charter is the referral from the client. So you can do that as well. Okay. So all these things and whatnot is not mentioned here, but by attending the class, you know lah, through my explanation. Okay, next one that you have to scrutinize in the either the SOW and also the project charter is called the scope statement. So basically, like earlier I have discussed, the scope statement reflects the project team efforts in creating the documentation and approval for all important project parameters prior to proceeding to the development phase. Key step in the scope statement process include, so you use scope statement, these are the process that you need to do in order to get everyone to understand what is included and what is not included. Because that is the most important thing in a project. Before you start the project, you must know what is it that you promise and what is it that you intend to deliver and what sort of desire of the client. So you have to match these two. So scope statement would scrutinize what is included and what is not included. For example, if you build a house, you construct a house. So your main contractor, they only build the house, they only construct the house. They don't do the wiring and whatnot. So these are all mentioned in the scope statement. So when you agree to build a house, your contractor will issue you a scope statement. Of course, small times contractors, they won't do it, but companies, whatnot, they will have a scope statement. So what are the things that are in the scope statement? One, you establish the project goal criteria. What will be the cost? When is it going to start? When is it going to finish? How do you going to capture the performance of the deliverables? And what are the approval gates? Approval gates means that after you finish certain activity, whether you can go ahead to other activities. Right? Blah, 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 blah. Developers are this one already discussed many times. Okay. Second one is developing the management plan for the project. The management plan consists of the organized structure for the project team, the policies and procedures under which team member will be expected to operate, their appropriate job description, well understood reporting structure to each member of the team, and the management plan is essentially the project bureaucratic step that creates control system to ensure that all team members know their roles, their responsibility, and professional relationship. So who reports to who and whatnot should be included in the scope of statement. This is very important because it shows the line of communication, so that there is smooth communication between departments, between teams that are involved in the project. Okay. Then you establish a work breakdown. Then only you establish the work breakdown structure. Same lah, no need to explain. Or you can use the project charter here. And then creating a scope baseline. The scope baseline is a document that provides a summary description of each component of the project goal, including basic budget, schedule information for each activity. Creation of the scope baseline is final step in the process, systematically laying out the pre-work information in which each sub-routine of the project has been identified and given its control parameters, cost, and schedule. So those are the things that are included in a scope of statement. Scope of statement, some company, if they have already a work breakdown structure, they include the scope of statement. So the scope of statement also can include the work breakdown structure. Which one to do first? If you have done a very good work-based breakdown structure, or you have a proper proper project charter, then scope of statement can also be included. It's just that when you look at document of the work-based structure, does all the questions with regard to who reports to whom, who is in charge of what, when to finish certain things, if everything is properly done, then you can choose to have only work breakdown structure or project charter with scope of statement included inside, or the other way around. You have a very big, very detailed scope of statement with work breakdown structure included inside. Okay, so Either way, it depends on your practice lah, practice of the company. So some companies are familiar with scope statement, some companies are familiar with work breakdown schedule structure, some are familiar with project charter. Either way, these are all being used in order to facilitate planning process. Because if you analyze properly, closely, all these things, they are all very similar. So it depends on the practice of the company lah, that is going to take up the project. So which is the best? Again, question, which is the best, which is the most used? It depends lah. It depends on the nature or the experience of the project manager. Some project manager they use work-based structure. Some will use project charter. There is, as long as, that's why when you see earlier when we discussed about the planning process, there are 9 steps. And these 9 steps very clear. But when it comes to platform, they can overlap each other. Some combine some have all the 9 steps, some combine some, macam tu lah. So which is up to the experience of the project manager or the company that is taking up the project. Okay, so far any questions? So if you ask me whether you have what you need to understand, the first most important thing is these two, because you find these two everywhere in the 3 platforms. Work-based work, statement of work. You have a project charter and also the scope statement. Any question? If not, we shall look into any question now. Okay. If not, we will look into what is known as critical path method. Critical path method is the fundamental concept in project management. So there's no excuse not to understand CPM. Although we are going to do a particular topic on CPM later, topic 6 or topic 7, can't remember. There will be a particular topic on CPM. Okay, there are 3 things that we are going to discuss. The first one is the critical path method, just an overview. These are all part. The first 4 chapters are all much are all just theory, to give you enough fundamentals for you to go about in the next stage when we try to discuss project in depth. So what is a critical path method? So it is a project management tool. So it is a platform lah, a way, a method that is used to schedule, organize and coordinate activities within a project. Basically, what it is telling is that a project, through the breakdown of structure, will have many activities. So what critical path method does is it schedule the start date and also the end date. These two you have to remember. In project management, every activity must have start date, end date. So critical path method layout. When you use critical path method, you lay out which activities can be done first and which activity can be done later, or which activities can be done simultaneously. So there are 3 things: which can be done first, which can be done later, and which can be done simultaneously. I'm referring to what? To activities. Okay. For example, if you're constructing a house, you start with the foundation. You cannot straight away put up the roof, right? So you start with the foundation. Only when the foundation is done, that is activity A, foundation. When foundation is done, then you go to the next step, which is to put up the walls. Only when the walls are done, then you can do the rooftop. Okay. While doing the rooftop, you can also do the finishing. For example, you can put the tiles in the house. So this can be done simultaneously. But we know that roof cannot precede the wall, and the wall cannot precede the foundation of the house. So our job as a project manager, we must put it into activities and we must determine which start first, which start later, and which can start simultaneously. Yeah. So how do we do that? We use a diagram. We use something called a network diagram. Example. Let me show you an example from the internet. Okay. Okay, can you see this? My Google.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an example. This is an example of the critical path method. So when we look at this diagram here, we see the first activity. This is the first activity. For example, just now the construction of the house. We start with the foundation. So the foundation will take up 3 weeks. So this activity second can only be done after 3 weeks. Okay, so that's the start date of 3 weeks and finishes in the 6th week. Later we will discuss this in a specific topic, just to show you an example. So this is what we call the critical path method. So we must find, what is it that we do with critical path method is, we must find the shortest way to finish the activities, because there are activities that can be done simultaneously and whatnot. So we must find the critical path method. So if you look at this one, the critical path method has been identified as the 4th week, 4 weeks, plus 3 weeks, plus 5 weeks, plus 6 weeks, plus 9 weeks. So the total duration of the project is 9 plus 6, 15, plus 5, 9 plus 6, 15, plus 5, 20, 20 plus 3, 23, 23 plus 4 is 27. So this project will be completed in 27 weeks. Although, if you calculate everything, it will be more than 24. So we want to find out where is the critical path, right? So the critical path, the project should end in 27 weeks. Okay, just to give you a rough idea. So first you put up the foundation, and then you put up the walls, and then for painting, you must finish walls, you must finish walls, you must finish the roof, you must finish the something else, then only you can start painting. For example, here the 6-step painting. Okay, but for this one, for another activity, let's say putting up the tiles and whatnot, you don't have to wait until the 3rd finish. You just have to wait until the roof are there, then you can start to put up the tiles. You don't have to wait until it has been painted or whatnot. So the arrangement of the critical path method is really being defined by the ability of the project manager to understand each activities and what is the estimated time for each activity. So that's why the work breakdown structure is very important. So when you break down all the work into activities and the duration it takes, for example, most important thing, you must know for each of the activity, how long does it take? Okay, give you a more simpler example. Let's say you want to bake a cake. So you can also use critical path method to show you what are the steps that you can do first, what are the steps that you can do later, what are the steps that you can do simultaneously. All right. So this creates an efficient and effective work procedure for the project. Okay, so everything is, if you look at this, very similar lah. The way they put it, some use certain way, some use, but the most important thing, you have your start date. Here you see the start date is 0, means 0 lah. And then after 3 weeks only, this one can start. This one can only start after the 7th week. Why? Because it take up 6 weeks here, and so on so forth. Later, when we do this scheduling part, we'll do some exercise on how to determine what is the start date, what is the end date, what is the first start, what is the last start. So all those we can just give you a rough idea. So you can see, you can visualize what is a critical path method. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Hey. Can you see the PowerPoint? Can? Okay. So that's why just now you saw the example. It was the network diagram or what we call the PERT chart. Okay. So visually you can see. Okay, like just now when I said, you look at the example just now, the red arrow, it shows the critical path method. What is it? It's there to calculate the critical path, which is the longest sequence of activities with 0 slack time. Later we will discuss more on slack time. Slack time is something that you can time that you can allow to go without doing anything or delay some certain activities because you are waiting for some other activities to finish. That is slack time. So critical path method ensure that we don't have slack time. So if you use critical path method properly, we get the right route from first activity until the end of the project, the right route. There will be no slack time. But if you mismanage that, then there will be some activities that are idle. Means that no one is doing work in the activity because they are waiting for some other activities to be done, right? So one of the, if you ask me, one of the reason why people do critical path method is to try to of course sometimes there are circumstances whereby you have some slack time and whatnot, but ideally when you draw up a critical path method, your objective is to have 0 slack time. I mean, no one is ideal, maknanya tak ada orang yang tak ada kerja. Semua orang ada kerja. Dalam projek tu semua orang ada kerja. Tak ada orang yang tak ada kerja. So then you would ask me, nanti activity B cannot start until activity A ends. So when we do our scheduling, we don't call up the activity B people yet until activity A finish, so that they come to do their work, and when they finish, they go. When you talk about companies that have multiple projects and whatnot, they have to come, do their thing, go somewhere else, do some other thing. So this is how we create efficiency. Without the critical path method, we would not know when to call people or to buy resources or to buy supplies and whatnot. Remember also, we cannot stockpile. Biasanya orang kata kalau you nak start project, you beli semua siap-siap, letak kat tempat. Then you have a stocking punya cost. Nak simpan kat mana? Kalau simen tak boleh simpan lama-lama. Simen simpan lama-lama, dia rosak, dia keras. So cannot. So that's why critical path method is important. When to buy? When you dah start buat wall, baru you beli simen. So the critical path method show all this. Okay? So I hope by giving you that visual example, you'll be able to understand. So this is a simple ni. You try to draw up now. Take a piece of paper. Okay. So now I want you to draw up, the first one is activity A. draw a circle or a rectangle, and then you put inside that activity A. So activity A is excavation. Excavation ni korek tanah lah, ataupun pembersihan. So activity A will last 5 days. Then you keluar satu arrow, draw up an arrow ke depan lah, macam tadi tu, yang contoh tadi tu, ke depan. You buat tak ni? Try to buat. Saya pun buat sekali, saya tunjuk kat you nanti. Okay, first we have activity A. So A, you look at it, it costs 5 days. So also start date 5 hari siap. Then we look at activity B. Activity B says that it depends on activity A. So activity A must finish first, then only activity B. So you drop an arrow to activity B. Straight line also can. Activity B, which is to lay up the foundation. It will take up 10 days. So it can only start on the 6th day. On the 5th day, siap je tu terus masuk. And then plus another 10 days. So it will finish on the 15th day. Okay, then we go to the next activity, activity C. Activity C is framing. 15 days. Only can be done after activity B. So another straight line. A, B to C. We'll start on the 15th day. And how many days does it take? Another 15 days. So 15 plus 15 is 30 days. Okay. Then you look at activity D. Activity D depends on activity C. So another arrow straight to activity D. Can start on the 30th day and finish in 5 days time. Okay. Then activity E also depends on C. So you branch out the C from C to E. Right? So E also can start on the 30th day and finish on the 35th day. Okay. Then look, the next one is activity F. Activity F also depends on C. So another one from C. Let's go to further. Then, hold on now. 0, 5, 5, 15, 15, 30, 35, 35. Then we see activity G after D and E. After D and E, you can start activity G, which start on the 35th day, takes up 10 days, is for 45 days. Then activity H depends on after F finish and after G finish. Earliest can start by the 45th day and plus 5 days, 50th. 50. Betul lah. Okay, you snap a picture of what you have written down. You draw up and you can paste in the chat. Can paste. Activity A take 5 days. Activity B take 10 days. So 15 days. 15 days and then take another 15 days, 30 days. 30 days, take another 5 days, 35 days. 35 days. Activity G 10 days. 35, 45. 45 plus 45 plus 5. It's actually 50 days, not 55. It's 50 days. Anyone with 50 days? Dapat tak? I'll show you the how do I show you? So then take picture. I will on the camera and show you. ABC, ABCFH. So the critical path is A, B, C, F and H. Total number days of 50. Tadi nota ni salah. So betul kan? I'll show you the. I will show you now the answer. Can see or not? I see tak nampak apa? Nampak tak?
Tak nampak.
Tak nampak.
Nampak.
Sekejap Ayo, ini blur ni susah juga ni. Okay, tak apa. I take a picture lah. Hold on. Take a picture using my phone and I will put it there. Pia, I share dengan you.
Okay.
Kenapa tak boleh? Sekejap. Pia, X. Pia forward dekat Warilina sekali.
Alright.
Okay. Then share dalam group. Everybody tengok. Compare your answer to TKY. Let me see yours. Correct. Correct. Easy, So this is a simple example lah. This is a simple example. So if you look at TKY punya example tu, same lah. The answer is the same. So everyone, you read that. So normally when it comes to critical path method, you'll be given this information. You'll be given this information. You have to lay out. You have to lay out. You have to find which path creates zero slack time. Okay. So A, B, C, F, H is the critical path method. Logically, people will say that we do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H lah. That's the longest time lah. So if you wait A, B waits until C, D, E, F, G, how many days? 15, 30, 35, 40, 45, 55, 60 days. If you don't use critical path method, you will waste 10 days. And 10 days is a lot of money. Okay, so that's why we have critical path method. Boleh? Done, eh? So, the next one, dah share Rafia? Sekarang you nampak apa, eh? You punya screen?
Slide.
Slide,
Nampak slide, Doktor.
Okay, slide dekat work breakdown structure. Okay, before that, I think I'll give you another example. You will try to draw up the critical path method. Okay, I will read out for you. Let me just, can I type here in the chat? Okay, I'll type here in the chat. A, 2 days. Okay. B, A, done in 2 days as well. B, after A, 5 days. Activity D, after C, 5 days. Activity E, the D, 5 days. Activity F, C, 10 days. Activity G, F, 5 days. Activity H, after G, 2 days. Okay. Try to do a critical path method of the activities. You faham tak? A, 2 days. B after A, C after A. Tu dia punya duration dia tu. Okay. Anyone with the answer, you can paste the answer in the chat box. Anyone with a different answer? Anyone else who like to share? Ambil nama yang share ni semua. You Fia dengan Wardina ambil nama. Okay, so your answer is incomplete. Down there you must put what is the critical path method. You draw the diagram correctly, but what is the critical path method? Semua draw diagram, okay, Chun. Betul lah, tapi what is the critical path method? Salah, Nur Alia. Diagram betul lah. Betul. TKY betul ACFGH. Now let's say I change a bit the question. Let's say I change a bit. Now I said that, let me just change a bit. G after F. Okay, the E H and will be your new diagram and what is the critical path method. Okay, betul. ACFGH. Now saya tukar information kat atas ni, tukar yang E tu tukar dengan yang H tukar. What would be your new diagram? Nanti sekejap. E tu sekejap. E study 12 days. Tu. Jangan pakai yang i atas eh. Okay, what would your new diagram looks like, and what is the critical path method? Okay, good. Tanggal Y. Okay, good. So it's going to be 26 days lah. So after you put A, C, D, E, H, you put there sama dengan 26 days. So we know this project can be completed in 26 days. And we know which can start first, which can start later, which can start simultaneously. For example, B and C can start simultaneously. D and F also can start simultaneously. So the activities that, if the question asks you which activity can be started simultaneously, your answer would be B and C, and also D and F. E and G cannot start simultaneously because not the same. The start date is not the same. Okay, I think by now you should be able to know lah, to understand what is critical path method. Okay, before we go to the work breakdown structure, we will take maybe a 10 minutes break. We'll come back around 3:20 lah. We'll come back at 3:20 and we'll discuss the rest of the slides. Okay. Any questions so far? Semua boleh ikut tak?
Okay.
Boleh, Doktor.
Boleh, Doktor.
Boleh ikut ya. Okay, alright. So we take a recess for a while. We'll come back at 3:20. Okay, we're back. All right, so later onwards, later we have a proper topic on critical path method and the early start, late start, and whatnot. So there are some other more detailed type of calculation in order to determine the critical path method. So what we have done just now is just for you to have an overview later onwards when we discuss the topic. Then you'll be familiar with the arrangement of CPM. Now let's talk about the earlier parts. We discussed about the basic of work breakdown structure. So I will not go into the depth. What is a work breakdown? Basically, it's just to when you look at your activities just now. So where does this activity comes from? So all these activities actually comes from the work breakdown structure. So when you break down the project into activities, what is what? So you have activities and later you translate that into the critical path method, right? So what is it? It's a hierarchical decomposition of a project into smaller, more manageable components. It's also a fundamental tool in project management, and it provides a framework for organizing and defining the scope of the project. Several benefit. First, it helps you to know what are the activities, time, and also resources needed for each of the activity, and to allocate the resources efficiently. It also shows the other stakeholders so that they can have a clear understanding of the project scope, and it's also provide the framework for monitoring and controlling. And so when you have everything laid down clearly, for example, just now we have how many activities? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 activities. So we have 8 activities. So by doing the work breakdown structure, you can see clearly what are the things required. Okay. So who should do the WBS? That's the question. So when we do the WBS, it's not only the project manager. You have to involve everybody that is an expert in the area, so that you know how much time required for each of the activities. So what are the resources needed as well. So that's why it's very important to involve all stakeholders and also subject matter expert. Okay. Why? Because as a project manager, you might know the overall management of the project, but you don't know individually, like for example, just now excavation, what does it involve? What kind of machine does it need? How long does it take? So all these questions can only be answered by people with proper knowledge of the area. So that's why we have to involve people that have knowledge on those areas, especially when we have not enough knowledge on those areas as the project manager. Okay, so why is it important? So it minimizes the risk of scope creep. Scope creep is doing activities longer than it takes, doing activities that are not it can be associated highly with the slack time, so we want to minimize that. Or you go overboard, you spend more than what you need to spend. So scope creep is something that, for example, you have budgeted like 10 million, or you, in terms of money, if you budgeted 1 million, then you go 1.2 million or 1.1 million. That is scope creep. Means you go overboard of what is planned what you have planned earlier. Okay, so what does that happen when you face with scope creep? It will result in project delays, increased costs, and lower quality and deliverables. So this is what we don't want. That's why the WBS must be well defined. The activities must be well defined. People that give you input on WBS must be well versed, so that we reduce the risk of a scope creep. Scope creep is something that no project manager wants. It happens. It will happen. It will happen. It may happen. Right? as much as possible, we try to avoid. Okay, so what WBS can be used in conjunction with other project management tools such as the Gantt chart. I think you know what is a Gantt chart, to help project managers to plan, track project progress. It also provides the foundation for developing the project schedule, helps us ensure that all activities are counted. Basically, it's like that. It's like you know like which is lay down all the activities and what is needed for each activities, when to do and when to finish all these activities. That is the work down bricks. I'll give you an example. Now, let's say you are a project manager tasked with organizing a fundraising event for a non-profit organization. That is a project. So project can be anything, project can be anything as long as it involves tasks and it is temporary. Yeah, it's a project. So in this case, this is a project. The project is to organize a fundraising event. Tahu tak fundraising event apa? Mendapatkan dana untuk satu non-profit organization. So here is an example of the steps you might take to create a work breakdown structure for this project. First, you define the project scope. The first step is to define the overall project scope. In this case, the project scope is to organize a fundraising event for the non-profit organization. Identify major deliverables. The next step is to identify major deliverables. What is it that you want to deliver to the client, which is the non-profit organization? In this case, the major deliverables might include event, venue selection, sponsor outreach, to get sponsor, event promotion, registration management, and also the event day logistics. So these are all the activities that you intend to deliver to the client. These are the things that you promise to do in order for you to achieve a successful fundraising event. Then you break down the deliverables into sub-components, the activities. The event promotion example might include sub-components such as social media marketing. So for the promotion, you include social media marketing, email marketing, and also you print advertising. These are the sub-activities that are included in the event promotion. Then you assign work packages. Once the sub-components have been identified, you can assign each component to team member or group. For example, the social media marketing sub-component might be assigned to the marketing team, while the event venue selection sub-component might be assigned to the logistic team. So you identify who will take up the role, who is accountable to the role. Later we will talk about the matrix, roles matrix, whereby you see better, what does this particular paragraph mean. And finally, you create a WBS diagram. So WBS diagram looks like this. If you look at it, the project is, let me just make it bigger. The project is a fundraising event. You have got these 5 major activities, and it is broken down into other activities as well. So this is just to see clearly what are the things required in order for you to deliver all these 5 things to the event, to the non-profit organization. So these are just example. These are all just examples. So WBS will look something like this. Yeah, it's like you have an essay. You try to summarize the essay. So you have an essay about global warming. So you, for example, global warming is your essay. You break it down into a graph or illustration like this to make it easier for you to understand. By having this, you can also use this to create your critical path method as well. It will help you see what are the activities required. In this case, this is not construction. In this case, so maybe this all will come simultaneously because it is one-day event, right? So one-day event, so there is no time. So critical path method will be just one way only. Okay. So this is an example. So you break down. Remember, it's like you look at an essay, you break down the essay into major components, and then from that major components, you lay out what are the minor components. And when you look at this, when you have done that, you can reverse that process, and it can become a similar essay. Reverse the process with all the information that you have here. all the information you have here, you can reverse back and it becomes an essay again. So that's how you look at it. It's a big essay. You identify the major components, then from the major components you identify what are the minor components. So all these then will be assigned to people who are supposed to be, who are to handle this, who are to handle this, who are to handle this, and the leader here have got to assign all these activities to the respected individual in the teams. Okay, so this is what a WBS. So you can also translate that the example I give you just now, the construction into a WBS form or diagram. It's quite straightforward lah. The next one is called the responsibility assignment metric. Remember that in the work-based example, the assigned work packages, who are to do what. So a responsibility assignment matrix helps you to do that. Clarify and define the roles and responsibility of project members, which stand for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Who are those people with which sort of categories? The RAM is usually created during the planning phase of a project and helps to ensure that all team members understand their roles and their responsibilities. It is also useful to identify any potential gaps or overlaps in responsibilities. So you can see, if you put up RAM, you know that a person is doing exactly what he needs to do, and it doesn't overlap with some other work that someone else needs to do. So the main purpose is to achieve efficient and effective rolling out the rules to the people that are involved. Here's an example of each component of the RACI matrix. RACI or RAC or RAM, doesn't matter. So who are responsible? So who we categorize as a responsible person? This person is a person or group responsible for completing the specific task or activity. The person that should do the work are the ones who are directly responsible for the outcome of the task. So what is expected of the outcome? The responsible person must be identified. Then you have the accountable person. This person or group is accountable for the overall success of the project. So if the person responsible doesn't do his work correctly, it will affect the people that are accountable. So they are responsible for ensuring all tasks are completed on time and within the budget, for making sure that the project meets its objective. So the responsible person will somehow or other will answer to the accountable, a person that is accountable for the, in this case, it might be the project supervisor, or it can be the project assistant manager or project manager himself. Consulted are the person or group who are consulted for their input or expertise on a specific task. They are not directly responsible for the outcome. Their input is valuable, but their input is needed to ensure the task is completed successfully. So they have no responsibility. They are not accountable, but their opinion and their views matters to that particular task that the responsible person are doing. So the responsible person have some relationship with the consultant. Then we have the last one, the roles, we call it inform. So this person is informed about the status of specific task or activity, but they are not directly involved in completing it. They are kept informed about the progress of the task so that they can provide feedback or make decision as needed. So normally this is the project manager lah. Project manager must be informed of what is going on by the responsible person, and also by the accountable person, not by the consulted person. Okay, let's see an example. To create RAM, you would list all the project activities or tasks in the left-hand column, and then assign the RACI roles for each task in the subsequent columns. Here's an example just now. So the task is venue selection, sponsor outreach, social media marketing, email marketing, and print advertising. So who are responsible? So for venue selection, the event planner is responsible. But the fundraising committee is accountable, because that's the major committee that that needs to ensure that the whole fundraising is done appropriately. accordingly so that the objective will be. So who are the people that are consulted in this case? So the event planner have got to consult the venue coordinator. So in this case, there's no need for someone to be involved. But if you put this in the project manager or the fundraising committee, pun can. So you want to let them know of what's going on. But since they are accountable here, so you don't have to put it involved here. Then the second one is sponsor outreach. So responsible is the person that is doing the job, which is the sponsorship team. The sponsorship team is the accountable person is the event manager, and the consulted people on how to outreach and whatnot. You can consult the marketing team. Okay, and then the social media team. Social media marketing is the marketing team that is responsible. The event manager will be accountable. Or you can slash this event manager as well as the fundraising committee also. You can slash there. Depends on how you interpret. And then nobody to consult. But if you want to consult the marketing team, okay, no problem. You want to consult the marketing team on what are the avenues that you want to use as social media, can also. And the inform team of fundraising committee, and so on and so forth. So this here is up to the project manager or to the team leader to assign. Most important thing here is this part, who is the responsible person and who they are accounted to. Okay, so you have to think deeply. You have to use your wisdom, you have to use your experience, you have to, when you look at the work breakdown structure, you have to imagine who would be responsible for what and who would be accountable for what and who should be consulted and who should be informed. So looking at this, the result of the RAM should be something like this. Okay. All right. Now, is there a right or wrong answer? It depends on how you look at the project. I wouldn't say that if you misput, or as long as you know that there should be, the task should be on the left side and who to be assigned what here. As far as the consultant, based on your, your creativity, your imagination, your experience, your past experience, your wisdom. As a student, of course, you don't have experience or what. But if, let's say, in the exam, we might give you a question that involve your assignment and whatnot, how you go about your assignment as a project. So who are responsible for what? So let's say you have your assignment, what are the tasks involved? And then who are responsible, which person, and who are accountable for, the project leader, who are consulted, lecturer, UTHM, so these are the consulted people, and informed people would be the lecturer as well. So this depends on how you look at it. Most important thing, you have to understand what responsible means, what accountable means, what consulted means, and what informed means. The moment you know this, then you can imagine where you want to put, who you want to consult, who is responsible and whatnot. So you have to really understand this information here in order for you to come up with this particular matrix. Okay, any question on responsibility assignment matrix? Okay, let's go to the conclusion part. So the conclusion is, planning is a crucial aspect of the project management, ensures successful project completion. It involves defining the project scope, setting objective, identifying blah blah blah, all the 9 things. Okay. Why? So that it helps to minimize project failures, delays, and cost overrun. This is what we don't want. Okay. Although we don't want, sometimes it happens. Later we'll in other topics we will discuss on mitigating risk and whatnot. So that's another day lah. But when we do our project planning, this is what we don't want. Okay, so there are various approaches, Gantt chart, critical parameter, breakdown structure, agile project management, among others. We don't discuss agile project management. But in the textbook, there is something called the agile project management, which is more complicated lah, which I don't include in the syllabus. However, effective planning is not a one-time event, but ongoing process that requires continuous monitoring, evaluation, and adjustment. This is very important. So the plan is there, but then it's not written on stones. Means that dia boleh berubah-ubah. Tapi as long as you have a proper plan, perubahan yang berlaku tu tidaklah begitu besar. Ya. So to have a plan is better than not to have a plan. So what is it that you plan? How is it that you plan? Basically you plan using this 9 steps. Okay. What are the methods? You can use this method, you can use this method, you can use this method, you can use this method. So these are the methods. And then these are the way you outline your project, the planning part, so that you can see the path, you can see the time taken, resource needed, and whatnot. All this helps you in the planning process. So far, any question?
No question.
Okay. If you have no question, nanti Fia, you ambil nama yang letak apa-apa dekat tepi ni kan, yang ada chat kat tepi ni, salah ke betul ke tak apa. You ambil nama dia orang, nanti you kumpul tau, ujung semester nanti saya akan ambil list you lah. Siapa nama dia berapa kali, you akan Pia dengan Wadina lah. So berapa kali nama dia, contoh TKY ni dah banyak kali kan, you take lah dah 3 kali. Nanti minggu depan dia cakap lagi 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
Untuk siapa-siapa yang nama ada kat situ, nanti saya ini semua akan membantulah sekiranya you memerlukan satu markah ke untuk naik grade ke apa dan sebagainya. Saya akan lihat pada you punya effort lah, you punya participation in class. Okay? Okay, sekiranya tak ada soalan, so saya rasa itu saja untuk hari ini. Yes.
About the individual assignment. Nadanya yang untuk project tu nak macam mana?
Individual assignment, let me check first. Apa dah saya? Individual assignment. Okay, jap. Reflect on the key concept principle management, apply them to real world project. Write a 1000, easy lah, 1000 ni. Work reflective essay on a project that you have been involved with, either as a team member or project manager. You say address the point one. Describe project including its objective. Okay, apa soalannya?
Yang tu project involve macam yang mana?
Contoh you pernah organize satu program untuk FPTP ke apa kan? Contoh you program jual kuih ke, jual apa ke, it's a project lah. Project you tahu kan, maksud project is a temporary task.
Ya.
Individual assignment. So you boleh buat tentang assignment, you boleh buat tentang class project, you boleh buat tentang persatuan punya project, as long as dia ada start time dengan end time lah. Then you discuss the project accordingly to the 1, 2, 3, 4 tu. So 1000 word is not that many lah. Kan? Follow je soalan ni. Okay, first kali you describe. Apa dia objektif dia, the scope, and who are the stakeholders involved. Then you tengok dia punya success or failure. So first kali you tahu what is the how do you call it a successful project, whether it's from the what kind of view, social view ke, from the profit view ke, from the return on investment view ke, and then all this you just detail out lah. Bila time management macam mana you buat, cost management macam mana you buat budget macam mana, how do you ensure quality of the project, the risk management. I know some of the things that we belum masuk lagi dalam tu, tapi you can always go ahead lah and baca dulu. Okay. Lepas tu you evaluate your own performance in the project. Apa you punya role dalam project tersebut. Dan what do you think you gather from that project? What would be your strength and your weaknesses, either as a team member or even as the project leader. Ini you goreng je lah. So future project kalau biasa apa yang salah buat ke apa dan sebagainya. So when you identify the weaknesses, then you can, once you identify what are the weaknesses, you can address that here lah. Key lesson learned. Contoh masa tak cukup, contoh apa team member tak memberi konflik antara team members. Because it is an essay, reflective essay. So you Google tengok apa maksud reflective essay. Okay. Okay tak?
Clear sir, clear.
Okay.
Lagi siapa ada soalan lagi?
Apa-apa projek pun boleh kan?
Apa-apa projek boleh. Jangan projek pelik-pelik sudahlah. Projek yang
Okay.
temporary. Projek yang sah. Jangan projek curi duit ke apa, janganlah. Projek yang sah. So saya boleh bayangkanlah projek macam projek dalam grup, projek dalam persatuan kan. Even kat sekolah dulu pun mungkin ada projek kan.
Ada.
Lain? Soalan lain ada tak? Midterm semua dah clear so bukan nak susahkan you time raya. You ada raya ada masa. You study seminggu pun cukup. After raya you come back 7 hari bulan tu dah boleh start study untuk midterm lah. 100 soalan 100 questions. Topic 1, topic 1, 2, 3 and 4. Although MCQ not too easy lah bukan senang sangat. Okey, kalau tak ada soalan, terima kasih. Yang mana menyambut hari raya, selamat hari raya, maaf zahir batin. Jumpa selepas cuti nanti, dan yang tak celebrate tu enjoy your holidays. Kemudian bila bawa kereta ke apa, hati-hati di jalan raya. Make sure semua balik lah. Sebab kita belum jumpa lagi Alright. Saya end kelas ni. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Selamat hari raya.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.